Hi, I'm Jennifer.
I'm Mike,
And I'm Andrea.
and
We're
We are
we're
not saints.
saints.
but we totally are enjoying learning from them. So exciting. Anyway, I first want to start out and say thank you. It's so nice to hear from some of our viewers. And after our podcast last week on Catherine Drexel, I got the next day an early morning email that said, "Don't saints need miracles to be canonized?" And I was like, "Ooh, yeah, they do." And we forgot to talk about St. Catherine's. And what's so beautiful is that her miracle happened after her death. So a deaf boy who was born deaf was brought to the Blessed Sacraments, and the nuns there asked for St. Catherine's. She wasn't a saint yet, but for her intercession. So miraculously, he was healed and he could hear, and the doctors could not explain why. And so she became canonized because of that. And so it just is a great reminder that not only when they're alive, but it's when they're dead. And that's why we ask a lot for saints to intercede for us and to pray. Just like I'm asking you, please pray for me. I'm asking the saints as well.
Good.
So
Yeah.
today, go
We
on.
thank you for listening and paying attention and asking.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
sending us your questions. We want more questions like that so we can explain a little bit more, and that helps us understand the saints a little bit better.
And I want you guys to ask us, to teach us, to share with us what saints you like and who you'd like us to research more clearly and more
Yeah.
deeply. Because it really is, for me anyway, I love delving into the saints. And I kind of feel like I'm surrounding myself. Like this week we're doing St. Rita, and it's like I was just surrounded with St. Rita all week in order to and talk to her.
It's fun for us to learn things new too, because it's a lot of the saints are not popular in the Bible. Well, they're really not in the Bible other than the 12 disciples, but so it's something new to learn.
Exactly.
Definitely. And
We
we
are
always say, we're not saints. We get things wrong. We might forget something. We might miss a fact that's out there about a saint. So even if you have something more that you'd like to share about the saints too, that'd be great. It helps us in our unconventional Bible study that we've got going on.
That's right. And today we're talking about St. Rita of Cascia. Did I say Cassia right?
You did.
I think I did. Good. And one of my favorite quotes that she said is, "With God, nothing is impossible." And wow, I love that. And I'm actually going to put it above my little wall so that I remember it every day. Maybe where we brush our teeth, honey.
Yeah.
On that mirror. She is often called the saint of the impossible. And her story is beautiful. And as I said, as I kept delving more and more into her, I kind of fell in love with her a little bit. What I love is that when she was born, her parents were older, and we'll learn more of the history with Andrea and Mike, but her parents were older, and she was kind of like a surprise from how I was understanding it. But as a baby, bees would swarm around her, go inside her mouth, outside her mouth, and just nothing happened, never bitten, nothing. And so the symbolism of the bee, was so strong. They knew early on that she was holy, that something was holy about her and her story, right? And she was surrounded by love by her family, and they were strong Christians as well. But yet her life was not easy. And at 12, she wanted to just be a nun and just dedicate her life to God. But the parents had, done they already knew that she was going to marry this guy. Arranged marriage, right. And she just wanted to give her life to God and live fully in God. She really didn't want to get married, but she got married. And sadly, as we know, wasn't a great marriage, a lot of violence. And she had 2 children, 2 sons, and she lost her husband. She lost her sons. And yet she still remained in love with Christ. Her passion and joy from Jesus was still so strong. And later in life, which again, we'll talk about, I love that she wanted to suffer even more. Here she's been suffering so much. And so Jesus gives her a thorn in her forehead, which was painful, the stigmata. And how she went through that and still shows this love and this passion. And I don't know, I just really, really fell in love with her love. That's what I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I will turn it to you.
Right. Rita was born in Italy in 1381. And as Jennifer said, her parents were quite old and they'd been trying to have children through their marriage, but they were never able to do it. And I read that her mother was visited by an angel and was told that she would have a girl and to name her Margarita. And so 9 months later, that Margarita, known as Rita, was born into this family. They were older parents, and the townspeople kind of knew then that she was something special because it was kind of a miracle
Right.
that she was even born. And they were,
Mhm.
and
And I
they,
also think that, like, being born to older parents at times makes you more mature. I have friends who have older parents,
yeah,
and I had an older dad at the time, and I think everybody always would comment, "Oh, you seem like such an old soul," or like there's a certain depth to children who are born to older parents.
Yeah.
And you can't get around as well, as you could in your 20s having a kid. So those kids need to know how to behave and be
yeah,
good to their parents because they literally they can't be like jumping all over the place. So I thought that was like a fun little note about her that she was born to the older parents apart from the miracle that it was when she was born.
Right.
And through her young life, she knew she wanted to be a nun her whole life. I mean, she wanted to dedicate her life to God, but her family, they had a lot of like feuding in that time, and they had family disputes.
Mhm.
And they'd agreed for Rita to marry someone long, even when she was really young. I don't know if she was 12 or 17, or, I mean, it's a little vague of the actual age she was when she was required to get married, but she entered into this marriage, and the man that she married was not a kind person.
Mhm.
He was very involved in the bickering and the small battles through their
Yeah.
community. So, and he was somewhat of a drinker, and he was not a kind man to her at all.
Right. Yeah, I think like back in those times families had crests and they had
Yeah.
this severe loyalty to one another that
Well, very
ultimately would
proud
result.
of them.
Yeah.
A lot of pride.
They would be representatives of their families, like, beyond what we are today, and, like, really fighting for the honor of each family was pretty common back then. But I do wonder if, like, her being married off at that age and this being, like, a betrothment of sorts,
Yeah.
if it was to keep peace in some way because her parents were known as peacemakers, I
Yes.
wonder if it was part of a greater deal than just a
Yeah.
betrothment.
I think
But
that was part of it. I mean, she dedicated herself to the marriage, even though that wasn't her choice. And she, through her whole marriage, I mean, she tried to convert her husband into a good man.
right.
And he did. That's ultimately what killed him. He
Mhm.
kind of fell away from his brutal side and was caught by some feuding family members of another family, and they killed him.
Yeah, and they
After
were
he had
married.
converted.
Yeah.
Right, and they were married for 18 years, they had 2
Right.
children together. He was abusive, he was not loyal, he cheated on her, he was also emotionally abusive as
Yes.
well, but his drinking habits and his fighting and his issues in the town with other people are what led him to obviously being killed. But you mentioned before he died, her prayers were answered, he did convert. So that's really special. I think her life as a child prepared her for this sort of thing because she spent time in prayer as a child. She practiced charity. She wanted to be a nun.
Right.
And
Yeah.
her parents had other plans for her, whatever the purpose of it was, whether it was to keep peace in some way, part of a greater scheme. This is where her life led. But her
Well, and
praying
she
for
always
his.
had compassion for her husbands,
Yeah,
right?
I
She
think.
kept praying and she had compassion, and also too, he came from a family that was pretty abusive, and so they
Mhm.
would get mad at him
Mhm.
Yeah,
for listening to her,
right. And
you
these
know?
things happen today. This
Yes,
is
they do.
I think this is what's really important about the saints' stories when they can be tied into situations that we still see unfolding today. Alcoholism and this abusive nature this can be passed down through generations. And if that was the love that he received, then he doesn't really know how to show love in the first
Exactly.
place. Not making excuses for abusive people or alcoholics or relationships that go this way. I'm just saying we see this happening today as well. And I think that's what's really special about the saints. So how she dealt with the situation was by continuing to be compassionate. I don't believe divorce would have been valued at that time. So she
I
was
don't think
kind of
so.
stuck in this marriage because of the time period and for what her parents wanted her to do, how she was raised. Those were all contributing factors in it. Today, if somebody's abusive and cheats on you and is feuding with people throughout the town,
You look
you
dumb.
can walk away legally.
What
You
was
can
that
walk away
movie?
legally, but that just wasn't the case. Now, this is 1393 at this point when they get married, and then they're married for 18 years after that. Times weren't really changing very quickly back in the 1300s, but once he converted, there were people that he had feuds with who ended up murdering him, and their two sons wanted to seek revenge on the murderers. So that threw Rita into another series of prayers. And this was the surprising part of it. You wouldn't necessarily think for a mother to pray for the death of her children. Rita prayed that God would remove them from this situation before they commit a murder and their souls are forever damaged for
Yeah.
that. So she's deeply Catholic, deeply in prayer all of her life. She gets over one hurdle, that is the abusive husband, and then now she is faced with her sons wanting to commit murder.
Oh,
And they died. Both sons died before they had a chance to kill anyone. And that, I think, is the unexpected part for me. I was just like, whoa, I never would imagine praying for God to take one of my children out. I mean, I only have one child, but she ends up forgiving the murderer.
He strongly believed that if they were allowed or went through with killing someone,
Mhm.
they would be,
in hell
in
forever.
hell forever.
Yes.
That would take a lot. Like you say, as a mother, I couldn't imagine praying for your children to be taken.
Yeah.
But, ultimately it was good because I'm sure they went to heaven.
Right. Good, but also very painful.
Painful. And yeah,
It's
again, just kind of fun. Didn't you just fall in love with her
Yeah, I think
constantly?
because she went through so much. She went through so many things, but she still had this spirit of forgiveness about her and
Compassion.
repentance and this glow. And it brings you back to that infant who had bees swirling in her mouth,
Yeah.
but wasn't stung. She wasn't harmed. So just like the bees swirling around in her mouth, she had all these damaging things happening around her. They might have physically and emotionally harmed her, but her soul was still enough intact that she wasn't damaged in that way. She didn't lose hope. She didn't lose her faith in God. And she kept on turning to him in these moments where my husband is going through this, my children are going through that. Please, please save them. Please, please help us. And God converted the husband. The sons were religious as well, and they were already in the faith, but they had these tendencies to want to seek out revenge. So it's amazing how she continued to turn to God. Afterwards, she did forgive the murderers, and just like her parents, she mediated the disagreements within the town, and then now, without any dependence, she was now able to turn back to her original focus of becoming a nun. And so she wanted to join the Augustinian convent, but she was rejected 3 times. This number comes up
Yeah.
again.
Yes.
She was rejected 3 times because she was a widow and she was associated with the violence in town.
Well, that family.
Her
Yeah.
family name was
Right.
known for violent people.
Right. And it's a disconnect from her parents who were known for being the peacemakers of the community. That didn't matter because she had the husband and her sons and everything that got tied up in some
That's
bad
it.
things. But the number 3, I think there are certain convents that nuns will join, if I'm remembering correctly, where there was one where the nun that's joining the convent in the Orthodox
Yeah.
path
I don't know that.
She walks down the aisle and the priest throws a pair of scissors down the aisle 3
That is
times.
right. Oh my God, I forgot that. Yes.
Yeah. So the 3 times that they're rejected, but not that that's what happened here. I'm just saying there are other convents where when they wish to join them, it's like the Orthodox Carmelite.
I think it is.
So they throw the scissors down the aisle 3 times, and the nuns have not cut their hair throughout their whole time practicing to join. And they throw the scissors down the aisle 3 times, and they have to go and get it and bring it back. And then one of the other sisters on the 3rd time joins the one that's doing this process, and they cut their hair off after, and then they join, which is pretty extreme, but it mirrors this rejection, this 3 times you're rejected. So you have to prove that you really want it in order to join these convents. And she wanted to join the Augustinian convent, which is of the Roman Catholic contemplative religious order. So they have an emphasis on prayer. They study constantly, and they are really connected to their community living. So their saying is one mind, one heart, intent upon God.
Right.
So that's the vibe. Okay. So she gets over this other hurdle of being rejected 3 times, and finally she's admitted, and she lives out the rest of her life there, 40 more years.
I know. I couldn't believe it was 40. She lived 90 something.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, she didn't die till 1457.
And you had mentioned about the stigmata. She prayed, she said, let me suffer like you, when she's praying to God, and that's when she gets the stigmata.
Thorn of a rose on a crown pierced her forehead, and the wound didn't ever heal. And
I always heard and was reading that it gave off a beautiful scent. I don't know if you guys read any of that.
Okay, wait, that's interesting, because I read the opposite, that it was a bad scent.
In the beginning, it was a foul odor, but near her death, it became a very fragrant scent.
Oh, okay. So, yes. Okay. So at the end, it was fragrant, but when she was alive, it was a bad scent, and that alienated her and removed her from others, but that brought her once again closer to God. So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
She never healed. I mean, it was there until the day she died. Interesting enough that happened, but then apparently her body never decomposed.
Right.
And I think they resumed her body, I think it was 108 years after her death, and her body was still intact with stigmata, and she was still flexible. I mean, wasn't bones.
Yeah, she had.
And I think even now, wherever her body is laid in a glass tomb.
Were they moving her somewhere when they dug her up? Because why are we digging people up?
Yeah.
They resumed her body to put it in a church somewhere.
Oh, okay.
I don't recall the name of the church, but I think she's still there now. So, I mean, it's been since.
Yeah. Now,
it's Umbria. Her body's in Umbria, which hopefully we're going to try to go this summer.
Oh,
when Italy? We go. Yeah.
So it's in Italy, in a small town.
Yeah.
In a basilica or.
Yeah, that's the north of Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when she was dying, she asked for rose and figs from her home. And I heard this on the Hollow app. I don't know if anybody has Hollow, but they were miraculously found. And I'd love to talk about the symbolism of those things. The rose symbolizes hope in impossible situations.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminded me when we did a brief talk, I think, about Saint Valentine, how people threw roses into his cell when he was preparing to be executed. People threw roses into his cell. And a lot of times in the Saint Valentine, you're thinking of roses as a romantic gesture. But I love how in this story, we're learning that it's hope in impossible causes. And then the symbolism, too, of the bees and divine favor as well is what came up throughout the study of Saint Rita. It was her divine favor and her sweetness of speech. And so with bees, you're thinking of sweetness of the honey that they're, connected with. And then the last one was the symbolism of the thorn, which is symbolic of the suffering of Jesus.
Correct.
And she prayed for that suffering. She wanted to suffer just like he suffered, or as closely as possible as he did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I love the story of her rose and how as she was dying, which I love this, and it was in the winter, and all she wanted was a rose from her garden, from her hometown. And a cousin went and it was like snowing and there was one rose and one fig.
Wow.
And she brought the rose to her, which again, it shows us in the snow, you don't see a rose, right? So it's another blessing.
And a symbol of hope.
Possible thing that a rose doesn't grow in the snow, you know? So love that story too.
And a lot of us reading this story, you know, she might not have been meant to suffer and survive through all of the things she survived. I can't imagine going through this marriage for 18 years being treated that way, or being married off at age 12, which probably was more common back then, but she lived well into her, what you said,
90s.
So, yeah, because she was at the convent for 40 years, married for 18, 12 years before that. So, yeah, I mean.
That's not my birthday. Can't help you there.
Was she meant to survive through all of these things and the death of 2 sons? I can't
still stay in love.
Right.
Still stay in love.
She was still obedient to Jesus, to God, to the convent. She really practiced forgiveness,
right,
over and over again, and never sought out revenge.
And compassion.
Yes, she had a great compassionate side as well. Her perseverance shone through everything that she did.
Right.
And she just wanted to be close to God.
Yeah. I love it.
Well, you know, again and again and again, our saints that we study, they're not born saints, you know, and
although doesn't she seem like she almost was with those
the divine favor, she clearly was touched by.
Exactly. It was all part of her journey. She had to be a wife and a mother and a widow and then a nun to fulfill this total journey that she was on. And it couldn't have happened in another way.
She definitely carried the cross.
That was God's purpose.
Yeah.
That's why we say you have to listen carefully. God's going to direct you, but it's not always a slap in the face and this is what you're going to do. You just have to listen.
Right.
Or feel.
Yeah.
Or feel.
Yeah.
All right. So do you have a beautiful Bible verse for us today?
I do. I might have 2, actually. I was torn between 2. So at the core of this story, I think there's a lot of conflict with the townspeople, and like we see that with her parents being mediators for the town, and so she's growing up in that. But then there's a lot of conflict in Rita's life later on, which we've covered throughout the episode today. But I thought this really stood out. So Matthew 5:44, it says, "Love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you." And this was Rita's life. I mean, she was constantly praying for others. She was found in prayer as a child. She was always wanting to be a nun, but she had to suffer through these things first before getting there. And I don't think it would have been possible if she hadn't prayed for those who persecute her and chose love despite being treated that way. So that's Matthew 5:44. And the other one, because she is the saint of impossible causes, or one of the saints of impossible causes, in Luke 1:37, says, "Nothing will be impossible for God."
And that's what she says.
That was Rita.
Yeah. I love that. So true.
That's true.
Yeah.
With God, there is nothing's impossible. I love that. Well, as we close today,
I think a lot of people have trouble, it's such a simple thing, but they have trouble comprehending that because we don't understand how powerful God is and what he can do.
That's true.
So it's like, that doesn't make sense, but it does.
Right.
Just nothing is impossible to God. Nothing.
With God.
To God, it's the way I read it.
Okay.
Well, and if something's not happening for you yet, I mean, Rita probably totally would have loved to just join the convent at 12 and bypass all of these things. But instead of joining the convent, she ended up saving, for sure, 3 souls. I mean, her husband converting and repenting before he got murdered, and her sons, before they committed this sin, they were spared. Those deaths in the Catholic version of the story, those were seen as mercy. And
Mhm.
a lot of people would think of that as tragedy. I certainly would. I would be like, yeah, no, I'd rather keep my kids alive and be able to enjoy them. And I probably, even further back, Rita probably would have rather spent her life in the convent. And when God's telling you, not yet, not yet, I have a bigger plan for you, it's not going to even make sense at the time. Like, why do I need to go through this in order to get to where I've always wanted to be? But she was a stronger nun, a stronger person, and a stronger follower of God because of those events that happened. So how is God strengthening you right now for the place that you want to go? And it's easier said than done. I don't like to be
I know.
thrashed around.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of speed bumps. Like, I think I'm always asking Father Stephen, like, how long do we have to go through this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what? She did not have a perfect life, but you know what she did? She had a faithful life. And that's, like I said, she was such an inspiration to me because of that. She knew heartbreak. She knew loss. She knew
self-sacrifice. I mean, she basically what she wanted to do, as Andrea said, she wanted to go to be a nun
right,
at an early age, but she wasn't allowed to.
right,
The path she had to take to learn to accomplish what God wanted her to accomplish.
right. And during going through all of that, she still chose my favorite word, love. It was God. She chose grace and she lived it. And again, she really lived it. So maybe that's our invitation. Maybe we need to soften for ourselves and to ourselves, right? To stay open and to bring the hardest part of our lives back into love. I know I always carry on the love, but that's what I think it's all about. So whatever you're carrying today, those of you out in our little world out there, release it. Bring it to love, bring it to God's heart. And if you need someone to walk with you on this journey, ask St. Rita to walk with you and to join you in that quiet, sacred space. She understands of all the saints we've studied, which they've all been wonderful teachers. But she's the one I think that she'll meet you in that place of love.
Yeah, she is the saint of impossible causes, impossible circumstances as well. Your faith, your resilience, the parts of your character that make you special are not going to be found in the ideal circumstances. On a sunny day when you're walking on the beach, you just pretend your life is just you walking along a beach in perfect temperature forever. You're never tested. You're never going to be met with anything that's character building, character shaping. You're only going to find those things through impossible causes, through challenge. So I think, yeah, Saint Rita will meet you where you're at. Sorry for interjecting there. I'm just
That's
thinking.
okay. But the other thing too, again, as we continue to learn more and more and more, is like, and I'm really into, like I've mentioned before, saying novenas for friends, for family, but even as just praying, taking the time to pray for our friends, to pray for our families, to pray for people who ask. And that's the beauty of the saints, is that we can ask them to also pray for us. And that's, I think, my biggest, like I'm covered in my little goosebumps, God bumps, whatever, because that's what I'm learning now, is really to ask the saints, to ask my guardian angels to help me and to pray for me and with me and help me in prayer.
Has there been a time when you've prayed for help with something that you really felt the load off of your shoulders when you did it?
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about any times, or did you guys have any examples? Or
Well, no, because mine is, everyone knows, my story. But again, before my son James died, I was really reading all about Mother Mary's apparitions. And I was really studying Mother Mary and being called home on March 12th. I swear it was Mother Mary.
Yeah.
that you were there,
Difficult
because
stuff.
she sent you.
And she was there as I held him. And he died in my arms. So I didn't want to cry, but
I'm sorry.
no, but that's what I'm saying. I felt so close to her that in the worst time of my life, she
Yeah.
was there. And as I was trying to save James, she whispered in my ear, which you've heard before, your son did not suffer. And I'm so grateful for those words. But I think it's because I was praying so hard and studying so hard that the connection was open and I was listening.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the story. This was not planned to say that at all. And I
No, I wanted to
apologize for
know
my
if there was.
tears, but
Yeah.
I do truly believe in the power of
Yeah.
prayer.
I I didn't know how to ask for relief or help in dealing with heaviness and what I was going through. But I was in my son's room here in this apartment, and we've been in this apartment for a year now. And there were times where I'm alone with my son and no help around, and I'm really tired from work, and he was having trouble sleeping through the night. And I remember just being tired going to work, and somebody told me, well, you have to give it to God. And I was like, what? Okay, here you go. Like, you know,
Right. I
you
know.
got to put it in this context of, okay, how do I do that? Because some people don't know how to pray or how to ask for help in those situations. So that person told me, you just pray and you ask God, or, you just have to sit there and ask for him to take this, and that you're suffering, whatever it is, take this from me, help me get through this, or whatever, asking for help as simply as you can. And so I'm like, okay, God, well, here we are. Raleigh is crying again. He's not going to sleep. And so I'm holding Raleigh, and I said, God, please just wrap your arms around him and give him peace and comfort. Let him stop crying and let him just rest. Let me rest. And I'm just praying this over and over. And all of a sudden, Raleigh stops crying. And I was like, well, dang, you work fast. And I know there's this thing called this trend going on social media where people are saying Jessica when their kids are crying, and they start saying Jessica, Jessica, and then they stop having their tantrums. You have to look it up. It's so crazy. But I called on Jesus. I called on Jesus. I said in that prayer, please, like, help me out. I don't know what else I can do. I don't know why he's having so much trouble. Please just give him comfort. Wrap your arms around him. And it did work in that moment. And that's just my experience.
I hope you then said thank you, thank you, thank you, and did a whole
Yes,
gratitude prayer.
absolutely.
And I will say the hardest thing, I think, for me is asking God for help, because I always say thank you, thank you, thank you, even for the speed bumps that we have.
Yeah.
And so, and I've often had to ask Father Stephen, what does it mean to take it to the cross or give it to God or whatever? Like, even with my connection with Mother Mary that was so close, I didn't know James was going to die. I just felt this need to know Mother Mary, to read more about her adjurations, to talk to her more, to ask her to pray for me. I had no idea what was coming.
Right.
Mine was not really like yours. And I need to get better at that, because I'm not good I'm always in gratitude.
Yeah.
And so I need to learn how to ask. And so I thank you for bringing that up today.
I wonder what Saint Rita's prayers sounded like when she was giving all of her suffering throughout her life to God. And she was obviously a pro at doing that, and being in prayer. So whatever it looks like for anybody else, I hope that they can find a way to get that closeness and that ability to hand things over.
Right, exactly. And again, thank you guys for joining us. We totally enjoy this journey that we're on, and we enjoy sharing it with you. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of We're Not Saints. For more of the We're Not Saints shenanigans and behind-the-scenes content, you can follow us on Instagram at We're Not Saints 1. That's We're Not Saints 1, without the apostrophe. And be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear from you. So leave us a comment or a review, or contact us by email at we'renotsaints1@gmail.com.
And if you'd like to have a great companion to your weekly saint studies with us, you can purchase a copy of my books.
Are You There, Mary? How to Resurrect in Love After Loss, and or Finding Love in the Confessional on Amazon, available as a Kindle version or paperback.
All these links will be provided in the description of this episode. And don't forget to tune in next Wednesday for our weekly dose of saints. God bless you.
Should you read it again with more intonation?
No.
It was very Mike.